You are listening to the Hire Fast podcast. Today's episode is part 2 of training and development. In this episode, I will talk about 10 hours of watching videos. Are you kidding me? The elimination of the buddying up people. How your people store information. Learning by doing. All the subject matter experts out there, you know, the people who know everything but can't teach anyone how to do any of it. How to get people counted for immediate return on investment. And how to make an immediate impact and get lightning fast results. Okay, let's get started.
The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Hire Fast podcast, a podcast aimed at educating you on hiring the right person for the right job and keeping them. Are you sick of spending precious time and energy hiring and training people just to have them turn around and quit? Then join Alan and his guests on Hire Fast as they teach you how to skillfully motivate and attract rockstar talent. Now here is your host, Alan Daviduk.
Thanks so much for listening to the Hire Fast podcast. So last week, we went over all the pressure, today's pressure in executing all these crazy products we have in our operations and all the stress that customers put on our teams with all these different recipes and things that, they're demanding more today. And the importance of the layers of teaching people, the definitions and the differences, training, instruction, education, and all of this equals learning, right? The result of being able to do things. So have you ever had a person quit on you the first day or even the second day? I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many people have quit on me the first day. And I'll tell you, if you say no to that question, you don't own a business. You don't have employees. So they quit a lot of times because they're lost. They feel stupid. They feel like they didn't know what to do. No one was directing them, right? That's what today's episode is going to be about, is how do we fix this? I remember one time I went into my mother's restaurant and literally saw an employee standing there. They were doing nothing, right? They were there to train, and people were just walking by them. So the people that they were buddied up with, that's why I said in the beginning, get rid of this buddying up. They were just doing their thing, and they were ignoring the person. So think about how that person felt, right? If you were that person, just standing there being ignored, you feel in the way. People are irritated that you're there. They're giving you an attitude, because you're requiring their attention. And then, now, the next day happens, right? And this person comes into work. They've been shown nothing. They've been made to feel super uncomfortable. And now the seasoned people, right? The people who are doing the blunt of the work for you start to get frustrated and make comments like, they don't know anything. They're stupid. They don't know what they're doing, right? This is what happens all the time, especially in the restaurant world, especially in QSR and fast casual. So this is what we want to prevent at all costs. Right now, if someone leaves, it's a them problem, not an us problem. We did everything we were supposed to do on our side. So that's what training is all about. So stay with me. We're going to take all of this information, the information from the last episode and all the information today, and we're going to put it into a nice packaged process and a system that will achieve results and return on your investment every single time. So this is why I say we got to eliminate the buddying up strategy. I hate this. I hate when I see people just tossed with other people. Now, in a pinch, if it happens, it's okay, right? You got to do what you got to do. You run a business, right? But if this is your first strategy, if this is the way you do things, I got to tell you, you're not serious about setting your people up for success. And when it causes a shit show, you caused it, right? You're the problem. So don't complain, that you don't like the results you didn't get when you caused the shit show. So you got to eliminate this buddying up. And today, employees are bored, right? The reality is that they're bored with the way that most people train, right? The hiring, you're handing people a manual, right? Or locking them in a room where they got to watch a bunch of videos, right? And then doing this half-assed test with them to make sure that they learn something. It's outdated. And this is how a majority of the big operators, how they do it, right? And it gets shitty participation, right? I remember one time I logged in, because this is how we did it when I was in the Dunkin' Donut world, right? We'd put people through 3 days of online training, right? And I remember logging into the camera to see how things were going and literally watching an employee sitting in the office sleeping, right? Or on their phone, hitting the spacebar button, just making, to basically say that they logged the time, but they didn't learn anything, right? When it's all said and done, this process, people only retain 10% of it, right? And think about this. Brands, if you're part of a brand, your hard-earned money that you've paid the company, millions of dollars, has been invested in this being the number one solution. We can do this better. There's a better way. So a few methodologies I learned along the way were, and here's two of them, learner-centered learning, and I'll explain what that means, and performance-based learning, right? So learner-centered, we focus on the learner, on the person, right? Not just all the content and, we understand our materials, we know our products, we know how to deliver them, but learner-centered is I focus on the person, right? So I can speed things up or slow things down depending on what their skill set is or lack of skill set, right? I spend more time about them, right, rather than just injecting a shit ton of material, and I make it fun, right? That's learner-centered. That's what that means. So I heard this quote one time, and it really stayed with me forever, resonated. The actual quote was by a guy named Epictetus, if I even said that right. He's like this Greek philosopher, but I heard it in a movie. And it said that God designed our head with 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? We're supposed to listen more than we talk. So when we do that in a training environment, now we can get the golden nuggets, the things that people say, right, that we can enhance the training. We can enhance their development. So it's very important that you use the way God designed your head properly. So performance-based. How many times have you been in a meeting or you've been doing something and someone said, well, I didn't have enough time to cover all the content. Well, that's because you got too much fucking content. That's why. You shouldn't have to just be this delivery of thousands and thousands of documents and tons of documentation, right? So when it comes to training, sometimes a little less is a lot more. So let's say you got this new drink coming out. I don't know, it's some wacky thing with like a piece of cake on top. I don't know, whatever it is, right? Whatever you do for your business, maybe it's a burger, right? But it's cool to go through all the steps, right? That's great. But now make one with them. Like, right? Mind-blowing concept. Let them see it, let them do it, right? And then now you can do all these cool things in the steps that you teach them. Like, hey, maybe when you're pouring this drink, you hold the cup sideways and whatever it is, right? You know your business. But now that's the part of the learning that makes it fun and engaging, right? Things that they take with them forever, right? Now you have a dialogue. Now, what it would be good as you get good at this, right, is you have these fun stories ready to go, right? You've got them in your pocket, so you know when to pull them out and be able to use them, right? This is professional training. So I remember my wife, it was her birthday, and she loves Kevin Hart. She wanted to go see Kevin Hart. So I went all out, got meet and greet, with front row, the whole thing, right? We're at the Boston Garden. So we go out back and we're talking to Kevin Hart, and the show was amazing. And he's like, what did you think of the show? And I said, the show was great, but that's not what the best part of what I took away. He made a comment while he was on stage that this was like the 280th show he had delivered this year, particular year we were in. And I was like, that blew me away, right? The fact that this man gets on stage and he's done it, he's going to do it 300 times this year. There's only 365 days in a year. He's on his 280th time of delivering this same exact performance 300 times. And I'm seeing it for the first time, and he's got the energy like it was the first one. That's what we need to do when we're training, right? We get so monotonous that we're doing the same things over and over again that a trainee comes in and we're like, I got to do this again, right? We can't do that, right? We need to have this fun and this energy, right, to teach people because they're getting this for the first time. And I'll give you an example of something that I've done for years in our restaurant. We're in the coffee and donut business. And what I'm after with this story, that literally it's in my pocket, it's ready to go, I wait to use it, I actually craft when I'm doing something to use it, right? And I want to instill competency and confidence in people, right? So I'm definitely aging myself when I use this. And sometimes when I'm helping, because I don't do a ton of training anymore, I teach the trainers to train. A lot of times when I tell the story, you're going to laugh because you're going to be like, oh, Jesus, how old is this guy, right? So I tell this story. When you're making a cup of coffee, you have an artificial sweetener, Splenda, Sweet and Low, whatever it is, right? If you put the Splenda and Sweet and Low in the cup and then you pour the coffee on top of it, what can happen sometimes is that it gets all clumped up. So it looks like the milk or the cream is all curdled, right? So we have a fix for that. So we pour the coffee, then we put the artificial sweetener on top, right? And by that, you're doing that, it dissolves real well, right? So here's a story I tell about that process and what happens. I said, hey, when I was younger, we used to get Nestle's Quick Chocolate Milk, and it was in a powder. I know that's all mind-blowing for all you millennials out there, but we did have Nestle's Quick in a powder at one time. So what did we do, right? We'd take it, we'd spoon it all into the cup, we'd pour milk on top of it, and what would happen? Nothing. It would be this big chunk of messy shit, right? We'd have to like stab it with a spoon, there'd be big chunks of chocolate, we'd be smashing it up on the side, and I would say, that's not what we want the customer to get in their coffee, right? But see, by telling that story, giving them a visual, laughing, this is what we're after. So another problem that I see sometimes with trainers is that they want to take the thing out of someone's hand, right? We want people to be doing the shit themselves, right? That's how they're going to learn. You know, don't just take it, go la 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 la, and then that's how we do it, and then move on to the next thing. So I always tell my trainers, put your hands in your pocket. Direct them. So I want you to literally stick your hand in your pocket and talk them through things because they need to do, right? The more that they do, the faster we're going to get there. Remember, we're after return on investment. We're after getting this person to function right away. The money that we're paying today, we need to get people working, not sitting in an office watching 40 hours of videos. So remember, the purpose of all this is to enable people to learn, to get a result, right? Take the training, take the instruction, take the education, and then that all turns into learning, right? By doing. Competency comes from doing. So what's a trainer's job? It's to facilitate transformation, not transmit a shit ton of information like what's happening when you're doing all those videos or you look at a manual or whatever it is, right? You're just transferring information. No one holds on to it, right? We want transformation. So kind of like a caterpillar goes in the cocoon and then comes out a butterfly, right? We get a person who's never, in our business, poured a cup of coffee, or in your business, maybe a burger, right? But now at the end, they're a burger person. They're a coffee and donut person, right? They can do this stuff. That's the transformation that we're after, and that's the trainer's job, right? So now let's talk about how people store information in their head. So we got short-term memory and we got long-term memory, right? So short-term memory is where you get this stuff in your head, your brain holds on to it, but if you don't do something with it, it's going to be gone, right? So think about, I know this happens to me, oh my God, like every day. You know, you're driving down the street and then you get this great idea and then you see something shiny over there and then the idea's gone. And you're like, shit, how do I get that idea back? Because it was a good one and I didn't have a chance to write it down or send myself a message. That's what I do, by the way. I pick up my phone and I'm like, Siri, send me a message, so I don't lose it. Right? But how many times has that happened to you? It's in your brain, then it's gone. And you're like, shit, I want that back. That was a good one, right? And here's the problem. When we're delivering information in our businesses, a lot of information over and over again, people can't hold on to it, right? They just can't absorb it all, right? You're just delivering too much. You're overwhelming them. So we need to chunk the information in small pieces, right? Then we need to do something with it. So you deliver it, small pieces, very strategically along the way, right? That way people don't get the overload, right? So now you can transmit a lot of information, but if you do it correctly, they'll absorb it, they'll learn it, they'll retain it, right? Now by retaining it, what I mean by that is we move it from the short term, right, from that little space in your brain into the long term. The long-term memory is where you go get it from, right? Think about if I asked you a question like, who was the first guy on the moon, right? You remember, it was Neil Armstrong. You don't even know why you remember that, right? You learned that when you were like in the 6th grade or 5th grade, or I don't even know now how, you learned it a long time ago. But now you're 40 years old or 50 years old and you can retrieve it, right? So that's what we're after, short-term into long-term, and the process of doing helps bring that information and put it in the right place so you can go get it. When we have a line of customers out the door, we can't have a manual and be flipping through to page 73 to remember how to make this drink. No, but by being fun and engaging, by doing what I told you, I tell that great story, the learner or the new candidate, the employee, remembers that. They're like, oh yeah, I made that yesterday. Oh, you just do this, you put the thing on after, boom, 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 away they go, right? So the trick is in the repetitive, doing it over again, learning it, using it, rinse, repeat, right? This is how trainers understand how to deliver information. So, and this is key to getting people functioning right away, right? Not sitting in the office for 40 hours of video or 10 hours of 40 videos or whatever it is, right? But this takes planning, right? You got to get good at it, right? So now let's talk about all the people out there that take their older employees or their, quote unquote, best employees, and they want to put people with them to train. Because in their mind, they're like, oh, I'll just clone you, right? I'll just make a copy of you and this will be beautiful, right? I call these subject matter experts. So, how many times have you seen someone, they try to explain to someone, right? They have no patience, right? They're trying to explain to someone, they're getting frustrated. They're like, hey, you just do it this way, right? So I remember that I was watching this show. Oh God, it was so funny. So they were trying to get this stress out of people. They wanted to show people, a different way to explain and do things. So they took these people, younger people, like millennials, right? And they put like monitors and stuff all over them. And then what they did is they had them call their mother or their grandmother, and they had them walk them through putting an email attachment onto an email. Oh my God, it was like people were literally they were melting down. They were going to kill themselves. They're like, I can't do this shit, right? So these subject matter experts, right? These are the people that they're good, right? May even be you, right? You can do everything, right? You understand how to do it. You do it with such authority, but you can't teach it to anybody, right? So let's do a scenario. So you got the dad. He's in the car teaching his daughter to drive. Her name is Gail, let's just say in this instance. So the daughter, it's a stick, right? It's easy to teach someone how to drive an automatic, right? But a stick requires a lot more finesse and a lot more attention. So the dad says, all right, Gail, I want you to push in the clutch. No, not the brake, the clutch. And then, with your left foot, I want you to do this. With your right foot, I want you to do this. Now, Gail's all screwed up. She's like, oh, shit, what do I do? Do I go left foot, right foot? Do I go fast? Do I go slow? What do I do? And the father's like, come on, you got to push it down, but, not too fast. And then you got to release with the other. And then you got to move the gear shift a little bit. And then you got to ease up on the clutch. No, you're pressing the gas, not the clutch. And Gail's freaking out now. She's like, well, what do I do? Do I do the gear? What the hell do I do? She's starting to cry, right? She's like, do I use my left foot on the clutch? Do I do too much gas? I don't know what to do. And then the father's freaking out now. Now the car's bouncing up and down, right? And finally the daughter gives up and she's like, I hate you. I hate driving. I'm done with this shit, right? And the father's yelling and screaming at her because, he doesn't even know when he learned how to drive a stick, but he just knows how to do it, but he cannot explain it, right? Another example. Grandma makes cherry pie, right? So Junior says to Grandma, hey, Grandma, I love your cherry pie. It's my favorite thing in the entire world. Can you give me the recipe so I can make one? She goes, absolutely. You just need lots of flour. You need some sugar. You need some eggs and some milk. And Junior's like, well, what about cherries? Do we need cherries? It's cherry pie. And she's like, yeah, of course you need cherries. You can't make a cherry pie without cherries. And Junior goes, okay, well, how much flour? How much sugar? And all the other stuff? Like, how much of each? And she goes, well, you use about 3 cups of flour. I don't know, maybe 4. Grandma has been making cherry pie for 50 years, right? She just does it, right? She puts love. That's what they talk about, love in it, right? But Junior now is sitting there going, she can't explain to me how to make the pie, and I'm never going to get this recipe, right? So the cherry pie is going to leave when Grandma leaves, right? It's gone. So this is what happens with subject matter experts, right? These are your good people, your best people in the company that in your mind, because you're lazy, you're like, oh, I'm just going to put a new person with them, and they're just going to turn them into themselves. Well, good fucking luck with that, right? It is not going to work. So the experts, they're not novices. They're not teachers. They don't process information the same way. They don't have the patience that it takes to show someone how to do something. So I remember this I was in college, and I actually went to school for computer programming, which actually taught me that I did not want to be a computer programmer. But I was looking at my curriculum, and I had this technical writing class, and I'm like, oh my God, I hate writing. So I remember going to my advisor, and I said, hey, what is this thing on my schedule? I don't want to do a writing class. And she goes, okay, well, you're doing all this stuff, software development and programming. She goes, do you got to write a manual? Like, you're just going to give people the software and not tell them how to use it. She's like, that's what you need a technical writing class for. go back to class. I was like, holy shit, she's so right, right? So, I have a question for you. I got a question for you, Chrissy, right? How do you ride a bike? Chrissy's a producer. She's over here. So how do you ride a bike? What do you do, right? Tell me how you maintain your balance while you're riding the bike, right? How do you keep your body, do you do at an angle so you don't fall over, right? Do you pedal a little faster at certain times? Do you move side to side, right? What do? Do you hold the handlebars? Do you move them back and forth? No, you just know how to do it, right? But to try to explain that to someone, this is the problem. This is why you have to focus on training, right? And this is an art. You have to do it correctly. Most of what we've learned all these years, we've done and acquired all this knowledge without words. So we have no idea of how to put it back to people and teach them. We just did it, right? But this is how most companies approach training, right? They look at it the same way. Best person, I put someone with them. Good they're doing good. But this is why we speed up. We fight so hard to slow the revolving door down that we actually speed it up, right? Because we put the wrong people together. So, and it's a paradox, right? So, everything I talked about. So an expert gets the skills that they did by being performance-based, but then when they're asked to give the information to other people, what do? They go real fast, right? Short-term memory. They deliver a bunch of information. You do it this way, you do it this way, you do it this way. The person has no way to put it into long-term memory to absorb it, right? So they don't make it fun and engaging. They make it irritating, and because they're aggravated, they don't even want to be doing it, right? And they put all this procedural, technical jargon in there, right? And you just do it this way. Right? And this is what happens, and we just keep spinning and spinning, and we wonder why people walk out on us. So if you don't take your time and you don't deliver the information so your trainee or your new hire can't put that information from short-term to long-term, and you don't do it correctly, they're going to run. They're going to leave, right? And we're going to accomplish none of what we've set out to accomplish. So the dad, it shows you the difficulty from before, right? The dad didn't know how to teach his own daughter how to drive the car, right? Grandma couldn't give the recipe to her grandson for the cherry pie, right? So we have to adjust the way that we do things to the person, right? We have to deliver the information for the person to get the results we want. That's the secret sauce. So less is more. Right? And I know I said that way back, and you're probably like, what the hell is he talking about, right? We're training, we're doing all this stuff. So, we need to modernize our approach. We need to really take all of these little pieces and put them into account to be able to execute it, right? So we need a plan, right? We need to go into every one of these scenarios with a plan, right? Now, the person may not feel that on the other end. They may feel like you're just walking up and you're just showing them a bunch of stuff. But it's really a calculated plan that we're just delivering very engaging and very fun. So I always tell my trainers, we have a declaration, right? We want to train people as we would want to be trained. So if you want people to give you an attitude and be frustrated, then is that what you want? Then you're not going to do it to the other person. So what I designed is a system that I called the bucket system. I take all of this information, right? It's a super simple, easy system that will get you the 5-star training that you're after. And it's guaranteed to speed up the new hires to be able to function in the position, right? They could be counted on the schedule in as little as 2 days. You can have people actually functioning and waiting on customers and continuing to learn. You just basically layer the content, right? You take all your products and your packaging and your food safety, whatever it is, anything that you have to deliver that incredible customer experience. We're not reinventing anything, but we're just taking it and put it into a layered focus, right? So we're going to be learner-centered focus. We're going to focus on the people. Performance-based, we're going to get them to do. We're going to make it fun and engaging. We're going to bring the information into short-term memory, and we're going to transition it into the long-term memory, right? That way the learner can remember the concepts and retrieve them over and over and over again. They retain it, right? No more of the subject matter experts. Let them go do what they do, right? This isn't their jam, that's all, right? And instead, we're going to focus on the onboard experience, right? Immediate ROI. The money that we're paying today, people have to get functioning right away. And when you do this, You retain your people better. You set them up for success that they need. So remember, the purpose of all of this is to enable people to learn to get results, to take the training, the instruction, and the education, and they develop the skills they've learned by doing. So next week, we're going to talk about ROCKSTAR talent. We're going to talk about retention and a super sexy product that I call the ROCKSTAR journey. So thanks so much for listening today. You can come visit me at getsmartsystem.com. You can please email me at alan@getsmartsystem.com. You can call me at 1-888-3SMART-5. Click subscribe or follow below so I can keep you up to date on how to hire fast. Ciao for now.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.